Hey good people, this is Avik from Avik's Aqua World, and in today's video we are gonna talk about dragonfishes. We are not gonna actually talk about anything mythical, but very true to life. One of the oldest fishes to be in the aquarium hobby, the arowanas. Now behind me in this tank I have two arowanas. The one on top of my head over there is the Silver Arowana, and I've got a Banja Red and Asian arowana over here. But today I'm going to talk about the Silver Arowana, and the primary reason I have this partition over here is never keep two arowanas together. So how do you go ahead and identify a silver arowana? Well, to start off with, the body shape is unique. It's almost like a knife, like a one-edged knife, where the top back is almost parallel with the surface of the water, while the lower part narrows up, like slants up, starting from a wide mouth. Now looking at the fins, to start off with, the pelvic fins are needle shaped and pretty longer than most arowanas. They have a little bit of spread out fin at the base of the pelvic fins, but for the rest of the part it's actually pretty narrow and almost like a needle. The anal and the dorsal fin start off almost from the center half of the body and run along the entire length towards the tail. And the caudal fin is not too prominent and at times looks merged with the dorsal and the caudal fin. Dorsal and the anal fin in silver arowanas. If you compare it with an Asian arowana, the pelvic fins are like stubbed. They look like normal fins, and the anal and dorsal fin start off very late. They're not as long as in a silver arowana, and the caudal or the tail fin is much more distinct and prominent in Asian arowanas. So there's no mistake identifying silver arowanas from the rest of the species. Alright, so the first thing that you need to keep in mind before you get yourself a silver arowana is the size. You would need to appreciate the fact that a silver arowana in the wild grows up to be at least 4 feet long, and in captivity or in domestic tanks it could easily be around 3 feet. 3 feet is the entire length of this tank. So think about keeping a fish which is this long. The tank needs to be humongous. We are looking at 8 to 10 feet length and at least 3 feet in width. So please be careful before you get yourself a silver arowana. That's the only species in all the arowanas which grew up to be this long. So please make sure you can go ahead and give it a home which is suitable for that particular fish. Otherwise there's no point getting it. You usually end up selling it up forward to another person who may or may not have that much tank space, so it's kind of messy. Silver arowanas wouldn't need much of height of the tank. They would prefer longer tanks where they can like swim. They are active swimmers. They'll swim throughout the day along the length of the tank and then turn around and come back. So make sure the length of the tank is at least 3 times the length of the fish that you have in it. So for a fish which is say around 1 foot long, a 3-foot tank would be a minimum requirement. Also, to keep in mind the width of the tank, it should be at least 1.5 times the length of the fish. So if we are looking at a foot long arowana, again the breadth of the tank should be 1.5 feet. second point, which actually comes right after the size, would be the nature of the silver arowanas to be jumpers. They will jump. It's not about if they jump, they will jump. It's just about when. So make sure you have a strong lid or cover on the tank. And now when the I don't know if is of this size, it's like, I don't know, barely 4 inches. It's fine. Like, you can cover it with a thin sheet of glass or even plastic covers and stuff like that. But when we're talking about an arowana which is about 2 feet long or something like that, the cover needs to be really heavy. We're looking at wood, thick panels, glass panels, metal covers. Avoid acrylic or plastic covers, they're gonna break through it like wafers. Especially with the smaller ones, make sure there are no small holes or crevices in the cover from where they can like slip out, because they will get attracted to things around the tank, above the tank, insects and stuff like that, and they will tend to jump. They eat a lot, they poop a lot, and it's gonna be a biological nightmare if the filtration is not up to the mark. They do like a lot of flow as well, so you can go ahead and use canister filters, top filters. I have the small internal power filter running because the fishes are pretty small right now. But when they're big enough, I might switch over to a canister and or a sump, and also add a wave maker, which I run from time to time. They like swimming against the flow. So filtration, biological filtration. Make sure you siphon the tank every now and then. Do not keep a schedule for siphoning the tank. Whenever you find the tank dirty, go ahead and clean the bottom. Water changes primarily around 30% every week, 30 to 40% depending on how bad the water is getting. You need to maintain your filters. A lot of times I see people keeping monster fishes. They start running a filter and then they don't care about the filter media, and they just keep it running for ages before without cleaning the media. So you need to make sure that you clean the media as well. Silver arowanas specifically come from the Amazon, so they are tropical fishes. So they would like temperatures ranging between 26 to 28 degrees. A few degrees up and down would make much of a difference, but still try to keep it somewhere between 26 to 28, not too warm and neither too cold. Run a thermostat if you need to. Invest in a good thermostat which keeps stable water temperature. Arowanas are completely carnivores, right? So you cannot go vegan on them. They need a proper meaty diet to fulfill all their nutritional requirements. Arowanas in general are carnivorous but will incline more towards insectivore. In the wild, arowanas would actually jump out of the water to a overhanging branch where you would find an insect or something and grab hold of it and like pull it down. Make sure you give it a balanced, varied diet of mealworms, bloodworms, specialized pellets, fish fillets, market prawns and shrimps. Avoid live food. They don't have much nutrition value compared to the kind of risk that they have for disease carrying parasites. So you are better off giving your fishes pre-processed food like pellets. There are a lot of arowana special pellets available in the market. You can easily go for those. And do not feed your arowanas chicken or mutton or meat of any kind. Like, why would you feed your fishes terrestrial meat? Be it piranhas, be it arowanas, they might be monsters, but just because they're monsters, they won't go ahead and feed on chicken. Right? Terrestrial meat is not meant for fishes for most purposes. They do not have the proper enzymes to go ahead and digest terrestrial meat. You might go ahead and feed them with mealworms, superworms, roaches, insects. That's what they need. They don't need chicken meat or liver or anything of that sort. So please avoid or minimize it to probably once a month or twice a month at the max. Uh, don't go crazy with all this terrestrial meat with fishes in your tank. These guys are monsters in the truest sense. They are aggressive. They might not look like aggressive fishes, but they definitely are. And they will definitely be highly territorial. So if you're thinking about tank mates for your Silver Arowana, make sure they do not dwell around the upper layer of the aquarium where the Silver Arowana would actually be for most of the times. They prefer swimming around the top layer. So get tank mates of fishes which are for the middle layers or the bottom layers. The bottom layers would be the best fishes for arowana. So we're talking about catfishes, rays, but then keeping rays, you need tanks which are again like crazy wide. To keep a ray healthy, you need at least a 4 feet by 4 feet base, but that's for another video. Non-aggressive fishes, make sure it's not nipping on the arowana's fins, and yeah, they don't compete for food. The arowana would, for most reasons, go for food which are floating on the surface. So there shouldn't be any competition for the food either. Keep the tank decor to a bare minimum. I personally prefer keeping a substrate, which does help in drop eye, which I'll be talking about really soon. Apart from that, I do not prefer keeping driftwood and stuff like that, because the arowanas can go berserk all of a sudden and ram into the decor and hurt itself, or worse, kill itself. So try to keep the decor as minimum as possible. If you're growing it out from a really young stage, like a juvenile, depending on the swimming space to the decor ratio, it needs more swimming space. So you cannot cramp up the limited tank space with a lot of decor. So if you have like a 10 feet or 12 feet tank, you can go ahead and decor it for a 2 feet arowana or a 2.5 feet arowana. But if it's in a small tank, like the partition it's in right now, I've definitely not give any decor. Though you might find a lot of space, but the arowana does swim a lot around the entire space. So let's give it some swim space. Now the two most common deformities that we find in a Silver Arowana are in the spine and in the eyes. Now in the spines, it's mostly because it does not have sufficient swimming space. It kind of gets bent and gets a hump, and that's definitely not healthy for the arowana. Arowanas need a lot of footprint. Not that. The base of the tank needs to be big enough. It's not about the height, I'll keep on telling this, it's more about the base. And this works with most monster fishes. They prefer a lot of base area instead of height. Now the other deformity is not really a health hazard, but looks weird, is a drop eye. You would often come across older arowanas with one of their eyes or both of their eyes looking down in a perpetual state. You cannot go ahead and look straight. Their eyes are always, slanted down. That's what a drop eye is. Now, drop eyes usually happen because there's a lot of fat deposit above their eyelids, and that's why they cannot go ahead and roll up their eyes. They're kind of stuck down. There's no one single reason why your arowana would get a drop eye, but there are a few factors which you can go ahead and check so that your arowana doesn't develop a drop eye. To start off with, feed them with floating food. Make sure they're always looking up for their food. If you give them sinking food, they'll have this tendency to always look down for food when they're searching for food or when they're hungry, because they are always hungry. So they'll keep on searching for food down there, and even if they're not swimming down there, they might tend to look down there, and that kind of develops like a habit, which eventually might grow into a drop eye. Avoid a lot of fatty food. Now, the processed arowana special food actually work a lot better in this way because they minimize the fatty content and give more prominence to proteins. But when we are feeding them market prawns and bloodworms, they have a lot of fat in them as well. So that kind of starts depositing on the above the eye, and that again increases the chance of your arowana getting drop eye. I really hope this video helps you in identifying and keeping your silver arowanas. But please make sure we are dealing with one of the biggest fishes in the hobby. They are considered to be entry level arowanas because they come in a very cheap price compared to the other arowanas. But at the same time, they are the true monsters. So if you really decide on keeping your silver arowana, please go ahead and commit to its well-being for the long run. And happy fish keeping.